Hi, welcome everybody to another edition of the Ready Learner One Lounge. We are super excited to have you here. We have a really special show for you tonight, and we want to just start off really quickly by introducing our team, and then I'll hand it over to Christine, who will introduce our guest. My name is Jesse Lubinsky. I am the Chief Learning Officer of Ready Learner One, and to my right, Micah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Micah Shippey. I'm the CEO of Ready Learner One, and I have the privilege of working with these folks. And let's go to Bobby on the end.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bobby Carlton. I am the Director of Immersive Learning for Ready Learner One, and I'm here to help run this show. And Matt, you want to say something really quickly? Oh, Matt can't. This is Matt, everyone. Okay. Yeah, so please don't get in the way of Matt. He's very important to us.
This show, as well as all of our episodes, can be found on YouTube on our Ready Learner One channel, as well as an audio podcast on the Education Podcast Network.
There you go.
Great.
Up to you.
And cool. Our host for the night, Christine Lyon-Bailey.
Yeah, so just quickly, not with us tonight is our Chief Business Officer, Craig Besnoy. So he's the sort of the other important piece to our team. And I'm Christine Lyon-Bailey. I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Ready Learner One. So excited to be your host tonight and to be here with all of you. All right, so I am so privileged. It is my absolute honor to introduce our special guest for this evening's edition of the Ready Learner One Lounge. Standing here on my right is the lovely Cathy Hackl. She is a futurist, a speaker, and an author, and recognized augmented reality, virtual reality, spatial computing, and innovation thought leader. LinkedIn has named her one of the top 10 technology voices in 2018 and 2019, the highest honor on the platform. Now is an appropriate time to use your emojis. Cathy, Next Reality included Cathy in their annual top 30 people to watch in augmented reality for 2019, and she's been shortlisted as Technology Evangelist of the Year by Women in IT Awards. Cathy is currently working on her second book, The Augmented Workforce: How AI, AR, and 5G Will Impact Every Dollar You Make, which will debut in late 2020. Cathy is also a professionally trained futurist and is using strategic foresight to help companies and brands prepare for emerging futures. She recently worked as part of the enterprise strategy team at Magic Leap, where she helped drive communications and partner strategy for the company. Prior to that, Cathy was the lead futurist at You Are Here Labs, where she led agencies, brands, and companies in applying augmented reality and virtual reality for marketing and training, working with brands like AT&T and Porsche. Cathy worked as a VR evangelist for HTC Vive during the launch of its enterprise VR headset and during the company's partnership with Warner Brothers blockbuster Ready Player One. Sounds a little familiar. Might be a play on words for us. She's also the co-author of Marketing New Realities, the first VR AR marketing book ever written. Cathy has worked as the Chief Communications Officer for cinematic VR studio Future Lighthouse, where she collaborated on projects with Sony Pictures Entertainment, Oculus, Beefeater, and William Morris Endeavor. She has been featured in media outlets like Forbes, Barron's, Salon, VentureBeat, Digiday, TechTarget, CMO.com, and Mashable. She's a global advisor for VR AR Association and was recognized in 2016 by NBC News as one of the top Latina women working in VR. Before working in spatial computing and technology, she worked as a communicator at media companies such as CNN, Discovery, and ABC News, and was nominated in 2007 for an Emmy Award for her storytelling work. She's also the creator of the world's first holographic press release and loves all things spatial computing, artificial intelligence, and futurism. Wow, Cathy, that is one impressive introduction bio. We are so privileged to have you here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know you were going to read the whole thing, but thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and kind of, share what's going on currently with me.
Great. Well, that being said, can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up down this fascinating career path? What was your catalyst?
So I think everyone here can agree that we all have kind of what I call an XR origin story, right? Like X-Men, but XR. And for me, for me was going, I went to a conference and I was invited to put a headset on. It was an HTC Vive. And I went into an experience called Confinement by The Guardian. Many of you might have experienced it or seen it. And it puts you in a solitary confinement cell. It's like 6 by 9 meters, so pretty small. And within a couple of minutes, I felt claustrophobic. I took the headset off and I said, this is the future of storytelling on some level, and this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it's pretty, for me, it was a pretty transformative moment that I said, this is it. This is, I saw something, I felt connected. And I did, I was talking to a friend about this earlier, and she said, so that was your first VR experience? I said, yeah, it wasn't the cute, it wasn't a cute, it wasn't drawing in tilt brush or the blue or something like that. Mine was confinement. So it was pretty impactful.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot of people have a similar first experience where it has that really dramatic impact on them. And then, it leads to more interest. And for you, it has led to an incredible career in pursuing futurism and XR. So fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you help define for the audience and viewers a little bit about exactly what does it mean to be a futurist and what's your mission, your personal mission as a futurist?
Yeah, so I think that people always have the misconception when they hear futurist that they are people that predict the future, right? And futurists really don't do that. If you're a professionally trained futurist, you understand that what you are doing is helping companies deal with uncertainty. So there's a whole framework, you're scanning the horizon, you're doing a lot of analysis to look at the trends that are coming and what are the potential futures, the possible futures for that brand, company, or person. So yeah, it's more of a mission of helping people deal with uncertainty. And, now more than ever, let's say it's a really interesting time to be someone that is doing future studies, that is doing that type of analysis. And my personal goal, Christine, to be honest, is to be able to merge XR. So everything that we're doing in the AR, VR space, like the things you guys are doing, merge, emerging technology with strategic foresight, with future studies, so that, people can put on a headset, go into these potential futures and be able to make more strategic and better thought out decisions about their companies.
Right. That's fascinating. You're like the holder of the crystal ball, but it's not quite the crystal ball.
It's not quite the crystal ball. It's showing, if this is the path that follows, this is what could potentially happen, right? And you use data, you use analysis. It's much more than just, saying I predict something. And when I started, I consider myself still like a baby futurist, to be honest, because my training is fairly new and having a system and a framework is fairly new to me. But I went from just being someone that had, that was able to experience all this new technology to truly trying to understand how this technology and other factors like society, economics, environment kind of lead to a future.
Right. It's like the science behind the future. That's fascinating. So then let's talk a little bit about the unbelievably unpredictable world that we're living in with COVID-19. And how do you see this current circumstance allowing for a wider adoption of XR technology? Do you see that as being a result of all of this?
Yeah, I see it as a catalyst. So I'm not sure, if you guys can raise your hands, how many of you guys saw the article that came out in the New York Times it was early this week or late last week about virtual reality? Did you guys see that? About like the reporter that had a headset and he wasn't quite sure. Yeah, so a few folks. If not, go check it out. It's written by by the reporter that writes The Switch. He writes a tech column. I actually got interviewed for that article. I didn't make it in, which was like, because that was my dream to be in the New York Times. But it was a really interesting take. He's a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to VR, and he said, shouldn't this be the moment? Shouldn't this be the that moment that makes breaks VR into this kind of new frontier, et cetera. And I said, look, I don't think it's the end all be all. I think it's a catalyst. It's an accelerant. I said it's an accelerant. I think this is an accelerant. It's pushing companies to be more digital, and with that comes, VR and AR and different technologies that they have to adopt. I talked to him a lot about social VR, about experiences like the one we're having right now. He, unfortunately hadn't really found his tribe in social VR, which, it's to me, it's a little bit sad. But he liked to use it for meditation and for like hikes, and I think that's all great. But the social aspect right now and what we're doing here, I think, is just a very, very powerful thing. So going back to the question you asked, I was having a conversation with another futurist, and I said, look, if you think about it, if you look at where we're going, wouldn't it be great for my children to be able to put on a headset and learn physics from Einstein, or learn programming, from Bill Gates, whatever, right? That VR in some ways is going to give us the capacity to be able to have that, philosophy from Plato or chemistry from Marie Curie or what have you. Like, it's going to allow us to have that, and it's just very powerful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Cathy. One of the things that I love the most about VR, especially when it comes to teaching and learning, is that it eliminates all barriers, right? I mean, if we think about all of us who are here right now, and none of us probably live within, socially distanced walking distance of each other's homes, and yet the barriers are broken. And so with that said, what's your vision for how teaching and learning will be transformed by the introduction of XR? So we talked a little bit about access to things, but do you see XR technology becoming available in schools? Do you think that there will still be barriers to that? What's your perspective?
So I've been very lucky that my children, when we were in Atlanta, they went to a school that actually had an AR/VR program within the school. So I know that that's not the case in every school, right? I know that was kind of a very exciting situation. So they, I think once or twice a week, they had VR, and they put on the headsets. They used a company out of the UK. I can't remember the name right now, but they're like orange headsets. And it was really interesting. They really enjoyed it. So that was nice. This year, we are actually living in the Washington, D.C. area, in the metro area. And this year, since we moved, I decided to take a totally different approach. And I started to send them to a non-traditional school. It doesn't teach by the regular method, everyone sitting in rows and looking at the teacher. This is more student-driven. They're very small classes. They, for example, start the day with yoga. And then they have emotional intelligence classes. They have resilience. They have, special current events. Social justice, like all these things that you wouldn't necessarily think about when you think about school and math. And, they still have math and they have all that stuff, but they have this other curriculum that I feel is really creating the human of the future that we need, Right. So yeah, I'm very excited about this model, and seeing how it moves and how it goes forward. And one of the biggest things that they're being taught is also conflict resolution, which, obviously we need a lot of that in this country, especially. And they have to solve issues between the children. If not, the teacher will step in, but the first initial thing is for the children to kind of step in. And I think that this model, they can have this model because of where we are, right? But XR might allow us to replicate some type of model like this and give it to more children that might not be able to go to that school. Right. I think that that's the equalizer. I think that VR is going to allow us to do that. And as the price for the headsets comes down and the quality of the headsets gets better, I mean, it's going to open up all those possibilities.
Right. So how then do you see, I couldn't agree with you more. It's my absolute passion in life is to, provide learners of all ages with experiences that are otherwise unattainable. So how do you see then a similar concept in corporate learning and corporate training?
Uh, that I'm extremely passionate about that part, and both in in AR, VR, or spatial computing. I feel like I still have to say spatial computing because I used to work at Magic Leap. So now I can say mixed reality, guys. Um, so anyway, I see the opportunity. Okay, if you start to think about what's coming with automation, with a lot more automation coming into the workforce, I see especially augmented reality and virtual reality as a way to help those workers get upskilled and retrained faster. And I think that is a huge benefit that XR brings to the workforce, whether it's an aging workforce, whether it is younger generations that are coming into the workforce that don't want to do a tedious task. So it's very powerful. And that's kind of what I'm working on my second book with John Bazell from Unreal. It's called The Augmented Workforce, and that's one of the things that we're looking at.
That's fantastic. Do you see a strong need for what is the design process behind that? So the technology is the vehicle that delivers the experience, but how does the design happen for things like that?
I think that's where we have to really sometimes rethink things. I think we go immediately to the tech, and we need to be more human-centered. So human-centered design. I think, personally, I think human-centered design should be a class that every kid should take, or something along those lines to really think about. Yeah, we're designing technology, but it's for humans. I'm sure synths and robots will use it in the future too, but it's mostly for humans. So, so I think that's going to be really interesting, and
it's music to my ears as Ready Learner One. We're a team of instructional designers, and so we fully see that vision as well, and the value behind that. Great. So what other interesting things can you share with us about sort of your perspective on the future of XR, and then the future of futurists? And do you have any thoughts that you want to share with the group?
So there's a few things I'm really interested in. I was very lucky to speak at a Singularity University Summit. So if you guys know Singularity University, they're out of Silicon Valley, very focused on exponential growth. And I had a chance to speak at one of their summits and met a lady called Suzanne Gildert. She has an AI company out of Canada called Sanctuary AI. And what she is designing are synths, so synthetic robotic humans. And basically and check her out, guys, definitely her work, what she's doing is extremely interesting. So her thesis is that the world is designed for humans. So instead of designing a robot that does not look like a human or does not have hands and legs, why not design robots that actually do look like humans and they're synths? And and her goal is to eventually be able to have these robotic humans help with healthcare or help with the aging population, or so many different applications. And I find what she's doing really interesting, right? If you're into sci-fi, I'm sure, raise your hand if you think synthetic humans could be interesting. Let's see if anyone raises their hands. Okay, got a few. Okay, cool. So definitely check her out. What she's doing is very interesting. I had heard about stuff like that, but when I actually talked to her and learned that she's actually cracking this code, let's say, and doing it, it was fantastic. She showed me the latest hand that they had designed, the latest skin. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. It's like, it's like science fiction that's leading to innovation and disruption, and that I was really excited about. And I'm sure a lot of people here are excited about virtual beings and artificial humans. So that's just kind of another part of that whole conversation.
Right. That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Cathy, would it be okay with you if I open it up to the audience for some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Awesome. So Bobby, do you want to explain the raise your hand?
Yes. So if you look at the bottom lower right hand side, you'll see a raise your hand button. Just hit that button, and I will call on you, and you can ask your question. We have a couple of questions already. So the first one comes from Mark. Mark, I'm turning on your microphone. Are you good to go? Where are you, Mark? Unmute yourself, Mark. Hello, Mark. Okay. All right,
Aw,
Mark, we'll
where'd
try
that
to.
go?
Mark, we can always ask again, Mark. We'll come back to you. Okay, we have a question comes from Matt. Matt, you have the megaphone.
Yeah. All right, so fantastic question. I do think we will get there, potential in our lifetimes. That is, also thinking that our lifetimes might be 100 years, maybe 105, depending on everything that happens, right? But with longevity tech and everything, you and I'm not sure how old you are because I can only see your avatar, but I'm sure, we might have a chance to live to 100, 105. So definitely think we'll get there. Do I think it's going to be like the singularity, like that per se? I'm not sure. I don't think necessarily it's going to be like that. What I will say is that when you start to look at the different ways of describing the future, let's say there's always that dystopian view that people tend to go to because that's just human nature. There's also the utopian view that is like, oh, it's all going to be candy and unicorns. And, I don't think that that's necessarily the way it's going to be. I tend to align myself more with the idea of protopia, which says that, some things are going to get really good, some things are going to suck. So I'm kind of more on that front of like, I think technology in general is going to allow us and empower us to be better and potentially to live longer and potentially to achieve, those kind of, to achieve artificial intelligence that can actually help us as humans. But I also think that, if we don't stop what's happening with the environment or, if we don't get a hold of, potential pandemics in the future, like things are not necessarily going to be great for everyone. So I think it's a balance, but I do think we'll get there. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be the singularity as, as presented by Kurzweil or something like that. So did I answer your question? You're welcome.
All right. Let's go back to Mark. Mark, I'll give you another shot there. Just hit confirmation. You should see. Mark, how are we doing? Okay. All right. We got another question then. We have Micah. You have the megaphone.
Hi, Cathy. Thanks for coming. It's been great listening to you. I have a question about how often you're approached by people in the business space or education space who put the technology first instead of the use of the technology. We talk about human-centered design and designing for a specific purpose, but we've seen people get really excited about technology, and it's really, from my opinion, not appropriate to their exact context.
I think it happens a lot where it's like, should we be using the Quest? Should we be using this? And I'm like, well, hold on, let's backtrack a little bit. What are you trying to solve? What is the problem you're trying to solve with this, right? Especially if it's a smaller company and has like a smaller budget, if there's a different way to solve the problem, then that might be where I might stir them. Like I might say, go this route for now, maybe mobile or iPad or whatever, right? While you get to where you need to be. So I definitely think that, sometimes we put a cart before the horse and think about what headset instead of like, no, what is the solution to the problem I'm trying to solve? So, yeah, definitely see that a lot. Yeah, that's my answer. And I'm sticking to it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Micah. Craig, hold on, you have the megaphone. Craig.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks, Cathy.
Oh, there's Craig.
Thanks, Cathy, for coming. Very informative. I just wanted to ask a question about how you see, how, it seems that in many instances during this pandemic that education has fallen short of what expectations for preparedness. And if you could kind of give some direction to us as far as technology, where would you, maybe to educators and then maybe to corporations, where do you think you would start to prepare for the future? Where would you make some investments if you had to make a bet? It may be the same for
Yeah.
you, but one for each.
So this is what I'm seeing right now, especially because I have 3 children at home and they're all under the age of 9. So as you can imagine, homeschooling has been, like virtual schooling has been a challenge. So if there's any parents here, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's painful. You know what I'm finding, and this is just really interesting, it's happened over the last 2 weeks, is my kids will do their schoolwork, et cetera, but then they will run to Roblox. So do you guys know Roblox? I'm sure a lot of you guys know. It's interesting. They'll run to Roblox and play with with their friends there. I was talking to them today, and I said, "What is Roblox, guys?" I mean, I know what it is, but I want to hear from them because I always ask them questions. And they said, "Mom, it's a community. It's a community where we get together and play different games, and people create their own games, and they make money in games." And that was really interesting to me because, to me, I would say it's a video game, right? So, but to them, it's a community. So I think if educators, even businesses, start to think about education more along the lines of this community idea or this user-generated content that creates that cohesiveness or that sense of belonging to a community, it will be more powerful than just creating a lesson that the kids have to look at or print out a piece of paper where they have to fill in the capitals of the states of the United States or whatever. If they make it more interactive, I think that'll be fun. Granted, that does take an investment. That does take an investment in money and trying to gamify this type of content, make it more exciting. So yeah, I think my perspective has changed during this pandemic as to what truly is engaging for the newer generations and the people that are, the Gen Zs and the younger millennials and the Gen Zs that are coming into the workforce. Yeah, I don't think that the current tools that we have for training are going to suffice.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Does anybody else have a question? Anybody else? Just hit that little raise your hand if you do. If not, then we will then go end it, and then we'll do one other part, and then we'll go to the social VR part.
So just quickly, I want to make sure that we thank AltSpace, Microsoft, and the Education Podcast Network, as well as the amazing Cathy Hackl for joining us tonight. And Cathy, we do have one very important thing that we didn't talk about yet. That would be your birthday! Yay!
Today's my birthday,
everyone!
I chose
She
to
has
kind of
graced us with her presence on her birthday. What an amazing person.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, I've turned everyone's mic off. If you want to turn the mics on, we can all sing to Cathy. If we want to.
So is everybody on mute? We'll do a rousing
everyone's off
chorus
mute.
of happy birthday.
This is going to be really good.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cathy. Happy birthday to you.
So can I say that's exactly what I would have expected a happy birthday in VR to sound like?
Thank you. That was great.
So I encourage the stage blockers off. I encourage everybody to kind of hang out and mingle. Your mics are all off, and feel free to ask us any questions or approach Cathy, and she'll be here for a little bit while. And thanks for coming.
Grab some fireworks.
Thank you so much, and don't forget to join us next Tuesday. We'll see you next week.